So we must reclaim our religious heritage by African standards, by African eyes, African ears, African minds, African tongue, African hands, and African ideals and structure. The reason the religion is so important to reclaim, to remove the Africa out of Judaism, reclaim it back. All of the African components found in Judaism, we've got to take it back.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my space. This is Evans Rayola. So guys, I am a bearer of good news today. Last week I posted a video of Reverend Dr. AJ Varma, and I spoke about the hidden involvement of black folks in the Bible. Guys, after the video went viral, after it got a lot of interaction, I was able to interact with the secretary of Dr. AJ Varma, and we have organized for an online live video on YouTube this coming week. It will be on Tuesday, East African time, 12 a.m. You don't want to miss this, guys. I'll be going live with the Reverend Dr. AJ Varma, guys. This is such a big opportunity for me. And guys, to speak to us today is still the Reverend Dr. AJ Varma as he speaks in regards to the religious heritage of black folks that we need to take back as a people. So guys, Dr. Reverend AJ Varma is a prominent figure known for his work in African spirituality, religious studies, and Pan-Africanism. He has dedicated his life to empowering people of African descent by reconnecting them with their spiritual and cultural heritage. Born in Liberia and raised in the New York City, Dr. Varma has traveled the world teaching African history, spirituality, and comparative religious studies. He is the head of the Holy Cryptic Church, which emphasizes African religious traditions and promotes spiritual consciousness among its followers. His teachings encourage a return to African roots in religion, aiming to restore a sense of identity and pride among African descendants. Dr. Varma believes that reclaiming one's spiritual heritage is vital for creating strong relationships, building generational wealth, and fostering global unity within the African diaspora. So guys, I want you to watch this video of Dr. Varma talking about how we need to reclaim our religious heritage as black folks. Once the video is done, we'll come back and do a critical analysis of the same. Let's watch this, guys.
So we must reclaim our religious heritage by African standards, by African eyes, African ears, African minds, African tongue, African hands, and African ideals and structure. The reason the religion is so important to reclaim, to remove the Africa out of Judaism, reclaim it back. All of the African components found in Judaism, we've got to take it back. All of the African components that's been sprinkled and bleached within Christianity, we have to take it back. All of the African components that have found their way to be restructured within Islam and Buddhism and Confucianism and Zoroastrianism, we have to take it back. Now let's be very clear. Of course, there's always those, the naysayers of other nationalities or other dogmas that will say, why do black people of the diaspora or of Africa, of the continent, why do you always want to make everything came from Africa? Everything came from Africa. Well, it's not what we want to make such. If I go to the museum, the British Museum here in London, if I go to the museum, the Louvre in France, if I go to Leipzig in Germany, if we go to these places, it's not us saying that Africa was first. Darn near, or damn near, every floor in the museum has artifacts, which we refer to as facts of art. Facts written, inscribed, carved, drawn, records, statues, proving you were first. If I went into the British Museum right now and took everything that has to do with Melaninites, cultures, civilizations, ideals, creations out of the British Museum would probably end up about the size of maybe 2 bedrooms in a house, as far as Europe is concerned. So it's not us saying Africa's first. It's the fact that someone took everything that was yours. Now, biologically speaking, or archaeologically speaking, they say that all life comes from Africa. If all life comes from Africa, and African life was first, then African life is first, then the first chefs had to be Africans, because they would have been the first to cook foods. We've got to reclaim that heritage, that religion. If all life comes from Africa, that means Africans were the first to draw. So innately, all art would have to come from Africa, because the first person with enough time to be able to draw, because he or she, I'd prefer to say she because the mother was first, but because she or he were in an environment that was abundant with resources and food and wildlife, so they had time. When you have abundance, it gives you time to consider the finer things in life. So if Africans were the first life in circa the bones of Lucy or Authropithecine and Kenyan woman and Ethiopian woman, bones of Lucy they call her, if she's proven by their Euro scientists and their Indo-Arab and Indo-Aryan scientists to be the first forms of mammal human life to walk the planet, then surely all drawings, or culinary, or architecture, or agriculture, or medicine, because she would be the first to get cut. She's walking, she stumps her toe, breaks the toenail. She walks past a rose bush scratches her. She'd be the first to have to figure out how to stop bleeding. So it's not us saying all things come from Africa, but we have to reclaim that heritage. And it doesn't just mean saying what we've just said, but it means becoming the doctors, becoming the engineers, becoming the attorneys, becoming the agriculturalists, becoming the musicians, becoming the artisans, things of that nature. And this is why the first thing that they stole, the first thing that the invaders from Europa, the first thing that the invaders from the Indo-Aryans, the first thing that the invaders from the Sino Empire, the first thing of the invaders of the Indo-Arabs, the first things they took, the first things they studied about you was your spiritual structure, was your religious structure, because that would mean the tearing down. If they could figure it out, they could tear down your moral fiber. In the black community today, the African diaspora, those of the African continent, we are struggling because we're losing our way. The young people are killing each other. No more today than they did 50, 60 years ago. But they're killing each other in real time where you could see the video. But the killings of 50, 60 years ago by the youth and the killings of today's youth in 2020 are both predicated off of one reality: not knowing who and what you are. If you don't know who and what you are, you will have no respect for who and what you are, or those who look like who and what you are, or those who sound like who and what you are. When you and I are being attacked psychological, what they call psychological warfare, by way of psychological warfare, and the implementation of the psychological tactics that are used is what places us in this condition. So our spirituality, our religion, true African cosmology and theology is found on the Shabaka stone, known as the Memphite theology by historians, or what we prefer to call the Atonism, the original Kerestian, true Christian Kerest way. True, those who follow the ways of the Kerest, right? When we can reclaim that which they study to be able to break down our moral fiber, once we reclaim it and live it, then we can re-infuse morality and fiber and uprightness and righteousness and nobility amongst one another, towards one another. I'm not talking about having to do it with outside of self and kind. Now, in order to reclaim this religious heritage, what must we do? We must overcome 6 levels of fear. Again, I'll say 6 levels of fear. Now, what is fear before we go into the 6 levels of fear that we have to overcome in order to reclaim our religious heritage? Fear is false, the acronym, false evidence appearing real. Most of the things that we fear, the failures that we fear, the losses that we fear, the boogeyman and the those type of horrors that we fear are a result of someone else's narrative being put into our mind. No child is innately born afraid of the dark, because every child spent 9 months in the dark. No child, again, is innately scared of the dark. A newborn baby laid in a dark room when they're asleep will keep sleeping. But once they begin to watch the cartoons and the movies and get the bedtime stories, which are really horror flicks that the Grimm brothers and them wrote about, once you begin to infuse into their minds this imagination of someone else or some other nation into the image of their brain, because as you think it, you're going to manifest, then fear comes about. Well, that same way a child has fear based off of false things, the coat in the closet appears to be real as a person, but it's not. It's actually just a jacket. Well, in that same way as when we as adults begin to grow and take control of our own lives as you have it, we take things that are surreal with us. The first fear is in ancient Tamare, the first thing they taught you, the first false thing you had to overcome was the personality or spirit of infirmity, of sickness. Most of us are afraid of sickness and inevitably afraid of death, because someone convinced us that when you die, if you're bad, you're going to Jahannam if you're Muslim, or Sheol if you're Jewish, or hell if you're Christian. And if you're good, you're going to Shemayim if you're Jewish, or Jannah if you're Muslim, or heaven if you're Christian. The idea of good and evil did not exist. We had ought and naught. So when you and I ended up now locked into this false evidence given to us by invaders who came in with their own ideals based off of their imaginations, based off of having no real abundance of resources and food, to where they're now only mythologically coming up with ideas to explain things that naturally you and I were able to explain because we were around nature and could see it. We end up being afraid of being alone. We're afraid of dying and ending up being in a casket. What if I'm in the casket and I feel, what if I'm being cremated and I feel the fire? If you can feel, then you're still alive. There's no such thing as you're feeling while you're dead. But that fear, it causes people to stay in relationships unnecessarily, because I'm afraid of being alone. That fear of infirmity. The second fear we have to overcome towards reclaiming our heritage is the spirit of compromise. We must develop as melanated people, conscientiously conscious, those who seek perhaps to embrace atonism, being at one with the divine consciousness that is the creator and the ancestors. We must have in us a spirit of being uncompromising. Righteous indignation, they call it. I say stubborn for success. We're stubborn when we want to do things that we shouldn't be doing. When we're trying to run street and cheat on our husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever things that we've done and corruptness that we've done in our lives, we find a way to get it done. But when it comes to liberation, all of a sudden, we're not into religion. We say, okay, well, if you're not into religion, well, then at least the economics, support a black business. While the black businesses, everything they sell is so expensive and it's not good quality. Okay, well, at least work for a black person. Well, you know, black people won't pay you, and their black businesses don't work. Okay, at least marry a melanin person, melanite, a descendant of African Caribbean people. Well, love is blind. Oh, that's why all the homeless derelicts that look covered in filth and soot, that's why all the girls are rapping to them, because love is blind, right? Well, love's not that blind. So you won't do that. So okay, so you won't embrace a religious or spiritual or moral consciousness that's based off of you. Okay, and you won't support the economics of a black business, support self and buy black dolls and buy black. Okay, and you won't work with or for a black company or black business. Okay, and you won't marry a melanated person. Okay, what about education? Will you at least study the history of your people? Oh no, I'm not into that. Okay, well, what about law? Will you at least embrace the system of Matt, a law that speaks to you? No, well, how we know Matt's the real thing, how we know somebody, well, men wrote that anyway. Okay, well, what about sex, gender? Right? We have sex, gender, we have education, we have law. Okay, well, at least war security, at least secure your community. Get involved in the securing and elimination of drugs out of your community and the knives and the shootings, and at least speak to the young people, mentor, volunteer. No, I don't have the time. Coach. Well, at least watch on Netflix, only watch black movies. Go to the category that says African American or black or African. Support African films from Nigeria, Nollywood. Support black products in the cinema. Support Got Kush TV, Kush Community. Well, everything got to be okay. At least vote politically for a black politician. Well, so you saying I only got to vote for them just because they black? You see the problem. You see why we can't seem to stop fueling our own Holocaust. You see why we can't seem to achieve liberation on all levels of Rel Solweb. So that's that second spirit, compromise. Be uncompromised. Thirdly, the spirit of disobedience. We must overcome the fear that if we disobey the narratives of the Indo-Arab, the Indo-Aryan, the Caucasian Anglos, those who by their works historically and presently have enslaved and colonized and subjugated and abused our people. That fear that if you don't follow that narrative, you're not a good person and you're not going to make it. You got to move past that fear. That's all a part of reclaiming the religious heritage. The fourth thing is the spirit of defeat. There's no such thing as failure if you're working with an ideal, because you're learning as you're going anyway. And where you fail or appear to fail today becomes the success of tomorrow. You see, the devil, the colonizer, the enemy, the invaders, they don't fear where you are. They don't fear what they see you doing. They fear what you're becoming. And they fear where they see you going. And our goal has to be pushing past that fear of the spirit of defeat and understand that as long as we keep chipping away as a people, as individuals and collectively, inevitably you're going to win. Those who colonize and enslave you know this, because if they didn't feel you're going to win, they wouldn't put such efforts into keeping a people down that are already down. The fifth thing, spirit of fear, the spirit of weakness. We must encourage people to lean towards strength. That doesn't mean you don't have days where you feel weak. And that doesn't mean you might not have a day where you need a shoulder to cry on. But if you're the shoulder that's being cried on after about 30 minutes of crying, you got to tell the person, all right, now you got that out of you? Because life, you're still on topsoil. You're still on top of the earth. You're still in the world or realm of the living. You still have an obligation to live. You have an obligation and a responsibility to achieve some things for the sake of those who gave their lives so that you can live. And then that sixth spirit of fear, the ones that's going to be a difficult one towards reclaiming our religious heritage, the spirit of self-hate. The spirit of hating the individual self and hating the external self, meaning others that look like you, based off of how you've been made to feel about yourself. I cannot love you. And I think Whitney Houston did a remake of the song years ago, The Greatest Love of All. And that was a remake.
Family, this sermon was titled Reclaiming Our Religious Heritage by Dr. Reverend A.J. Varma. He says that the reason it's important to reclaim our religion is to remove Africa out of Judaism. All the Africans components found in Judaism, we have to take it back. So, family, as you all know, many a times white supremacists make black folks feel less. Many a times they take us away from our culture, away from our religion, and it's time we take it back. It's time we claim what is rightfully ours. It's time that we know our identity as a people. And one of the works of Dr. Reverend A.J. Verma is to ensure that black folks reclaim where they're supposed to be in the society. You know, even in the spiritual realm, black folks need to know about their religion. You all know the Bible has always been a black culture. You know, it has always been the story of black folks. So, guys, this talk was very, very instrumental. You know, and guys, Reverend A.J. Verma says if you go to museums all over the world, you will notice artifacts that proves Africans, or rather blacks, were first people. You know, they were first human beings. It's not us saying that Africa is first, but it's the fact that someone took everything that was ours. You know, the white supremacists in this case, they took what was rightfully for the black folk, for Africans. All life came from Africa. That's why Africa has always been first. You know, you all know the stories of the remains of the first human beings that were found in Africa, in my country, Kenya, in Ethiopia. You know, the last time I checked, all these countries are in Africa, guys. You know, the first chefs have to be from Africa, then, and have to reclaim that heritage. You know, the first chefs must have been from Africa, and we must reclaim these too. You know, if all life comes from Africa, it means that Africa were the first to even draw. You know, Africans were the first to fish. Africa were the first people, or rather Africans, the black folks, were the first people to develop technology. You know, they say that Columbus was the first person to discover the New World, which was the Americas. But it's also known that even the person who was sailing that ship was a black man. You know, the person who helped him navigate. As they were going through countries trying to find the New World, they met black folks all over. You know, these are things that are not told outside there, because many a times they want to make us feel less. They want to make us feel like they came before us, they educated us. But it's clear that the first people were from Africa. The first remains of human beings were found in Africa. If Africans were the first humans, according to the first remains found in Kenya and Ethiopia, then surely drawings, architecture, agriculture, medicine came from Africa. And we must reclaim our heritage as a people. You know, we must know how important we are. We must know where we came from. We must know our roots. We must reclaim it, man, because we've been lied to. It's time that we reclaim what is rightfully ours. It's time that we reclaim our identity as a people. For us to reclaim this religious heritage, we must overcome 6 levels of fear. The first level is the personality and spirit of fear of sickness and death. The second one is the spirit of compromise. The third is the spirit of disobedience. Fourth, the spirit of defeat. Fifth, the spirit of weakness. Sixth, the spirit of self-hate. Family, if we all can just overcome these 6 levels of fear, then we can easily reclaim our place in the world. We can easily reclaim our place in the society. Nobody will tell us that we are less, man. We shall have the courage, the audacity to stand with what we know is right, to stand with our religion, to stand with our history, to stand with our culture. You know, Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, because this video is so instrumental for any person who wants to learn more about their culture as a black folk. Family, I shared this good news as I started this video, and the news is that I'll be hosting Reverend AJ Varma, which is so huge in my platform for the first time. I have never done such a thing before. It is a miracle that his team got to see my work on YouTube, got to see a video that I reacted, his video that I reacted to. And when he reached out, I was so happy. And I cannot wait to share with you guys the live session as we discuss about the black involvement in the Bible, as we discuss about our heritage as a people. So guys, do not miss. That should be on the 22nd in the US. Or it will be on the 21st in the US at around, I think, between 7 p.m. and 6 p.m. But now in Africa, in East Africa, it will be at 12 a.m. on the 22nd, while in the US it will be on the 21st. I'd really wish that you all will be able to tune in and watch that video, because I know that it shall be a very instrumental video that will connect Africa to the US. It will connect us to our heritage, because you all know that Reverend AJ Varma has a lot of knowledge when it comes to our heritage as a people and its connection to the Bible in the spiritual realm. So guys, stay tuned and wait for that amazing episode. Guys, thank you for 15,000 subscribers. We just hit 15,000 subscribers, and I do not take it for granted, man. Let us continue pushing. The goal is to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of this month. We can also hit more. That is just but a target that I am putting, guys. So thank you so much. Like this video, comment down below, let me know what you think about this episode, and I'll be so grateful, guys. See you all in my next video. And guys, kindly, you can also join to be a member of this channel, and do not forget to support my work through super thanks down below. See you all in my next episode. Goodbye.